Recommendations are an important part of your LinkedIn profile. They represent objective third-party reviews of your experience, abilities, and personality. Before the digital age, testimonials took the form of paper letters of recommendation. Testimonials have since moved online and primarily in the form of LinkedIn recommendations. Nowadays, it is the place to store and display your recommendations all in one place and accessible to an audience you designate via your privacy settings on the LinkedIn profile. Much like a Yelp review for a business, a third-party testimonial gives you professional credibility and validates your value proposition. Since LinkedIn is a social media platform, companies will also be able to click through the recommenders' profiles and see more about who provided the write-up. Therefore, seek out recommendations from those with the most senior titles you can who can attest to your skills and abilities. Ideally, you'll want to approach people you know or who've worked well together or can speak intelligently about your capabilities that will matter most to your future employer. So recommenders within the industry are best. Here's how to obtain good recommendations. The way to request recommendations via LinkedIn is directly via the app. Be sure to pick people thoughtfully, considering their business sector, title, depth of acquaintance, and their willingness to provide a testimonial. Then go to the intended recommender's profile on LinkedIn and find the More button. Click it. From the drop-down menu, select Request a Recommendation. Define your relationship with the person. Select your position at the time that you want the recommendation written for, and then select Next. And LinkedIn will give you a generic message. I suggest overwriting that to something more personalized, which could read something like, I hope everything's going well with you. I'm writing to ask if you write a LinkedIn recommendation for me that highlights my crisis communication skills. Ideally, I'd love for you to outline the experience you had with me at XYZ initiative last year. I'm working hard to transition into an EVP role, and most of the companies I'm looking at require strong crisis communication skills. Since I really respect and admire you, I would appreciate your recommendation on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for your time and consideration. If you'd like, I'd be happy to do the same for you. And then all you have to do is send it. I like to contact the person directly beforehand to let them know that I'll be sending a recommendation request to remove the element of surprise and to address any concerns. To make it less of an imposition, you can offer to draft the testimonial yourself and have them modify it as they see fit. This assures two things. One, that it's more likely to get done, and two, that it'll say exactly what you want it to say. It's awkward having to reach back out to remind a person to write the recommendation, and even harder to ask for a revision. Plus, drafting a recommendation yourself makes it quick and easy for a busy professional. In your draft, start with a line that grabs your audience's attention, makes them want to read more. This will call attention to your primary traits or characteristics. I would avoid superlatives like one of the best or one of my favorite employees. Better would be something like, it's rare that you come across a standout talent like Jonathan. Or few people have had the opportunity to report to a manager who is both a coach and mentor, but I did when I worked with Jonathan. Or amazingly efficient is a phrase that comes to mind when I think about Jonathan. Then go on to describe the relationship and give the reader some context as to how you know one another, including your association, the projects, tasks, or initiatives you worked on together, as well as the challenges that were overcome. While you don't have to give all the details, it's important to let readers know why that particular person is qualified to review you. It can read something like, I had the pleasure of working with Jonathan for 4 years at the Acme company, where we collaborated on several cross-functional initiatives. Or, I hired Jonathan into the director position after he was highly recommended from his previous employer. He completed 5 high-impact projects for me since then. Or, Jonathan expertly filled the role of communications director during his tenure with our company. I also suggest identifying standout traits that align with your brand and more specifically the problems you're great at solving. There's no need to state the obvious or to use generic terms like smart, talented, or hardworking. Instead, point out 1 or 2 things that you do better than anything else. For example, I was particularly impressed by Jonathan's ability to handle even the toughest client managers with a depth of professionalism. That skill often takes years to develop, but it seemed to come naturally to him. After that, highlight another key skill. For example,
Jonathan's ability to juggle multiple projects was unlike any I've seen before and made a dramatic difference in the productivity of our team. Or, I was always in awe of Jonathan's ability to command a room and get people on board with ideas, even people who were initially on completely different pages. Every company wants to hire someone who can not only get the job done, but is also great to work with. Therefore, have the recommendation include a tidbit about what it's like to work with you or some insight into your personality. Something like, no matter how many different opinions were in the room, Jonathan could always find some common ground and gain a working consensus. Or, Jonathan always made everyone feel heard and respected. Then conclude with a solid recommendation that makes it clear that you're getting enthusiastic endorsement. Make it short, sweet, and solid. For example, Jonathan would be an asset to any team. Or, Jonathan is an outstanding performer who brings tenacity, levity, and cohesion to every project. Great testimonials from respectable sources will add to your professional credibility, so invest the time to continually build out this aspect of your online social presence.
As a final note, make sure to space out your recommendation requests as the creation dates are displayed on LinkedIn. As a hiring manager, I could always tell if someone had raced to solicit endorsements, which makes it seem a bit contrived. You want to make sure your recommendations look like they came in organically. Build a portfolio of recommendations over time, and they will serve you for your entire career.